we're at the Titanic Immersive Voyage located in Denver. It's an experience that kind of gives you a first-hand experience on what it's like to be on the Titanic when it departed, when it was out at sea, encountering the icebergs. And then we also have part of it where you can experience when the ship hit the iceberg and started sinking itself. So it's kind of a good, mostly hands-on experience to see what it was like to be on the Titanic during that fateful day. So our exhibit is extremely immersive. So there's different parts of the different rooms that you can go through to experience different parts of the ship. For example, we have what it's like to be at the Titanic on the day of the departure. So you can stand outside of the hull of the ship and kind of see what it looked like boarding the ship from the first class entrance. We also have another room where you can walk in and stand on the bridge and kind of get that view of what the captain saw when he was on that bridge on that day. We can go to the crow's nest and you can actually climb inside the crow's nest and kind of look around and scout out the area to see what they were scouting for that night, what it looked like that night before they hit the iceberg. And then you can also experience the boiler rooms where the iceberg actually penetrated the ship and started filling up with water. One of my favorite fun facts that I kind of like to share with everybody is actually about the grand staircase that's kind of behind me right now. We actually have no known photos of the grand staircase. Every photo that we see in pop culture, in the movies, in the books, it's all actually from the Olympic, which is Titanic's sister ship. And the Olympic was a one-for-one, basically identical build of the Titanic. So a lot of the pictures that we do see of like the first class dining room, the grand staircase, a lot of those photographs actually come from the Olympic and not the Titanic herself. Back in 1912 when it happened, very clear skies, very calm waters. Not much was really taken into consideration about how they might run into an iceberg, because at the time it wasn't really on their radar. Figuratively speaking, it wasn't on their radar. Some of the big issues that they didn't really take into consideration was just how calm the waters were that night. There was almost no waves, there was almost no wakes going on. Conditions were a little bit too good for that night, and the conditions being too good made it a little bit harder for them to kind of see the iceberg and prepare for it. And there was a lot of steps that were missed to kind of help identify the iceberg that night. For example, one of the crew members ended up leaving the ship when it departed, but they kept the key with them that they used in the crow's nest for the binoculars. So the people up in the crow's nest didn't have the tools and the resources that they needed for to locate the iceberg that night. When they spotted the iceberg, it was kind of a last-minute kind of deal. So they sounded the alarms and then they tried to turn the ship as sharp as they can to the left to avoid the iceberg. Unfortunately, they were unable to avoid the iceberg, and the iceberg ended up scraping the hull of the ship. Once it did scrape the hull of the ship, it started to flood the the front compartments of the ship. The way that the ship was designed, the compartments had openings at the top of the compartments. So when it started flooding, it ended up flooding into the other compartments from the top side of it. They bragged about it being the unsinkable ship because of the way it was designed, but part of the reason why it ended up sinking was the way that it was designed. So the way that they were bragging about how it was unsinkable actually ended up being the reason why it sank. I think we're so fascinated with Titanic just because it was one of the first of its kind. You know, when it first happened, we had this expectations that the ship was untouchable. A lot of high-powered people were on that ship. It shaped a lot of safety procedures that we have with naval today. It was a gentleman named by Robert. He actually found the Titanic by accident. They were actually out there looking for, it was a top secret mission, and they were trying to find some lost submarines. When they were out there looking for the submarines, they kind of accidentally stumbled on the Titanic. So it wasn't even planned. They weren't out there looking for the Titanic. A lot of the feedback we've been getting is about how educational it was. People have been coming in and just talking about how much new stuff they learned about the Titanic, a lot of facts that they didn't know about the Titanic. They love how serious we take everything. So it is a huge tragedy, and we take that into consideration. So when you're out there being immersive and learning about everything, you get that first-hand experience on what it was like being on the Titanic. We take it very serious, but at the same time, we also make it fun, very informative. So you're not coming in here crying your eyes out or anything like that. You're coming in, you're having a good time, and you're walking away with a good piece of knowledge. I think it's important for people to come and just kind of understand what happened that day, how it affected the world. But I think it's important to kind of come in and get that firsthand perspective about what happened on that day, what it was like for the passengers, what it was like for the crew members. I think it's important to kind of come in and kind of understand how one night kind of shaped the future and then kind of put us on the path that we're on today.